female entrepreneurs turned besties share on life, business, and the journey through the mess. Join their community with every new episode for connection, education, a few laughs, and the hype energy like a bathroom full of drunk girls at a bar. It's okay.
We're your friends now!
Ready?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I'm right.
Hey guys, it's Ashleigh.
Hey y'all, it's Biz.
And hey, it's Katie, and welcome to another week of We're Your Friends Now. Guess what? It's late March and we are still your friends.
Surprise!
And you're not getting away. In case you can't tell, this is the most of a voice that I have had in a few months of recording. So the sass is back. Let's go. Okay, give me quick recaps on your weekend. Ashleigh, go.
Just panic. I'm cat sitting for my neighbors. I'm scheming, I'm plotting,
Yes.
I'm zigzagging, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ashleigh texted me yesterday, and the first part of the text said, okay, I have this idea. And I was like, I am already invested.
I think at the end of the year, I should do like some sort of wrap up that's like, how many times did I text somebody? I have an idea.
You should make a list of all the ideas you have.
Oh my God, that'd be so depressing.
Biz, how was your weekend? Go.
Oh, it was great. I went to Belize and then I came back and I am a golden goddess now.
Ooh.
You are
so
you are
weird.
looking quite golden.
It's so weird because I like just was gone and then bam, have this like crazy tan and like the sun hasn't really come out a lot. And so everybody is noticing and it's kind of giving me a complex, but I'm here for it.
It's also wild because like people can't see this, but Biz, you're in like a tank top and
I'm sitting on a dress. No, legit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cute.
It is really cute. I'm sitting on a heating pad and Ashleigh currently has snow and ice outside of her house. So like
Beneath the Mason-Dixon, ladies.
I turned to Shane this morning and I was like, how many more years until we can retire? I can't.
this ain't it.
This is not it.
It's like this is literally my favorite time of year in New Orleans, and it's like a best kept secret because it only lasts like 2-3 weeks, and it's in between Mardi Gras and Easter. But the windows are open, no matter how hard it's raining. It's just beautiful. I love it. Can't complain. Yeah,
I
What about
can
you,
and I
Jane?
will.
well, come visit.
Ashleigh's gonna go down with a notebook. Let me find something to complain about. And I have an idea to fix it. Aw, it's good to be back with y'all.
I know. What about you, Katie? What'd you do?
We took Hunter bowling for the first time.
Oh, super cute.
We went in and we were like, this is either going to be the cutest thing ever or it's going to be like the biggest disaster of our lives. Kind of both.
Yeah.
But definitely so super fun and adorable. And he really loved it. And watching a 3-year-old carry a bowling ball on their own is just like grade A entertainment. So I was really impressed with like he picked it up really, like he got the concept really quickly. So once we helped him figure out that the ramp is not a slide.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about what we're talking about today because this is a conversation I like anytime, and also I think that this is so timely. So we are going to talk about leadership. And one of the reasons that I wanted to dive into this now is because there are a lot of changes happening in our industry. And I realize for people who aren't in real estate, this is probably also applicable because the economy is tough. A lot of people are facing really difficult times. The job market is really hard. And I just think that when things are difficult, leadership really shows, or lack of leadership really shows. And in our industry specifically, there's a lot of changes going on, and change can create chaos. And so it's been really interesting to see the reactions and responses to all of these changes and everything happening. And so, it sent me down a thought process of like, let's talk about what leadership is and what it looks like and how, people can step into it. So, I want to let's set the stage here for Biz. How would you define leadership? Or what do you think leadership is?
So yeah. Okay. I love that you called me first when I was the one most quiet about this topic.
Panic.
Okay. So
I told you I'm back. I'm back creating chaos.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like I've been such a self leader in my career lately, for the past few years, that it was weird to sit and think through who I would identify as leaders in my life. And it really, I guess, just boils down to examples, examples of who I want to be, and not necessarily people that are in a direct supervisory role to me, but a role model is what I would quantify as a leader. So does that make sense? So I look for people that are overarching leaders, not just biz specific.
Love that. Ashleigh, what about you?
I took the cheat code while Biz was thinking.
Did you look it up?
I looked it up, and I really like parts of it. So one, it says that leadership is both a research area and a practical skill, and I really like that. There's some separation between the fact that it's a skill and it's more than just a skill.
Yeah.
And it says that it encompasses the ability of an individual, group, or organization to influence or guide others. And I do like that, but it goes on to mention that it's often tied to a person's title, seniority, or ranking in a hierarchy. And like Biz, I don't necessarily attribute it to well, if you're the manager, you're a leader. Specifically because there are people that are just not good leaders that are in that hierarchy. I think you can be a great leader and be the entry level hire or the intern. You don't have to have it attached to your job title. And just because it should be attached to your job title doesn't make you inherently good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So the two of you just wrapped up most of the points that I was going to bring up. So we can just go ahead and wrap now. What's the words we're supposed to say? I'm going to give you some time back in your day. No, I love that you said that though. And I actually didn't know that was in the definition. But I really like the Mark King definition is leadership is influence. And
nice and simple.
Yeah, you can have we could dive deeper into that too about negative influence and things, but I think that at the heart of it gets there. And so some of the stuff that I really want our conversations to go around today is about what that means, because I feel like there's a couple things with the way that, and again, some of this is going to be industry specific. Real estate market was great. It was great for a hot minute, right? So people got into these quote unquote leadership roles, called themselves a leader, whether they're running a company, starting a team, getting their license, whatever, and they call themselves a leader. And it's based on the performance of the people under them or their performance and a metric, right? So how do you rate a good leader? Because a lot of these people came into a hot market, got a seat, and then just decided that they were a good leader because of the metrics that were below them. I think that's how do you measure a good leader?
I do not think a good leader is measured by metrics at all. I think a company can perform well and still have a very poorly performing leader. And so I think that those are kind of two separate skills, and that's why it's so difficult to find and hire really good leaders within your organization, because it's marrying the ability to be data-driven and outcome process-based while still having the soft skills that it takes to be considered a good leader. I think a good leader is somebody that if you surveyed most of the people that interact with them, especially if they work under them, if there's a positive outcome and those people feel excited and energized, or they feel confident in their environment and they trust the organization that they work for, that's what's a sign of a good leader.
And that those feelings aren't always necessarily given by the people with the title, right? Like it could be a colleague who really, they're like a ride or die. They inspire you, they push you, they set an example. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody with a title.
Right.
I think we've gotten really convoluted with this, like, especially you see organizations and they label like upper management as leadership, which I feel like was an attempt in corporate America to take away negativity or something, right? Like instead of it's not management, it's leadership. And so I feel like we've convoluted this idea a lot. And so it's just really interesting to me to watch like how this is kind of dissolved. And now that we're at a point where we actually need leadership, like can the leaders in the seats lead?
Yeah.
Biz, you said that you have self-led for a long time.
Yeah.
So you may not work in a position where you have like true leadership or whatever, but you probably have leaders within your industry. You.
Well, okay. Thanks. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just people that I look up to. And for me, it's really just boils down to intelligence, integrity, perseverance. I try to keep things really simple whenever I'm identifying people that I look up to. And then yeah, the perseverance piece of it, consistency. And that's something that I think is honestly like the most important, and the most important because it can't be rushed. It can't be faked. And so, yeah. But so yeah, like I said, I mean, because I come from corporate America, right? And then like I was just a ant in the mountain. And so the way to kind of get to do what you want to do is to just, not make any, be very strategic about the ripples, the pebbles that you're throwing in the pond. And so, I mean, I feel like I did a lot of that. I mean, I've never really had a whole lot of respect for a leader in a business position for about five or so years. No offense to people who I used to work for, if you happen to come across this.
Have you ever had a great leader though?
In a professional environment? Yeah. I mean, I say that I've had moments where I have felt, yeah. I mean, but it's really subjective to like in that moment, because like I was really naive. And I think when I was really naive, it was easier for me to be led. Because I think, and so like the people that I would identify as like really great leaders, like they were great leaders to me in that time. Would they be great leaders if I were to enter into the professional sphere with them now? No. And like, that's okay though, And so like, to me, like leadership and whatnot, it's super personal and super fluid and whatnot. And so it's interesting because it's so funny because I just realized like after I said all of this, that my integrator used to be my boss. It's gonna be like, well, geez, thanks, Biz. But no, I did. I guess that, so like, honestly, I kind of want to think about that for a second because he was my SVP. So my direct report, for like a while before he retired. And so he did lead me professionally, but it never felt like that. It was always more of like a collaboration.
And that's like a great sign of leaders, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody that was right next to you.
Yeah.
And right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I love Seychelles says that she leads with care and candor. Yeah. And ever since she said that, that's something that I'm trying to be like really intentional about in my own leadership. And so, yeah, I mean, like Ken was an amazing example in that regard. So in that case, yeah, I guess I have had great leaders. It's just I didn't even recognize it.
And sometimes you don't.
Right.
Ashleigh, what about you? Have you had like a great leader?
I would say I have been blessed with quite a few great leaders throughout the years. The one that's like standing out to me the most right now is my first ever boss. Katie and I were just chatting about this recently. First job, my first job ever. I was a hostess at like a local, small, hole in the wall Chinese restaurant. And
wait, hold on, pause. Wait, I just need a minute. Okay, all right,
And
I cannot imagine you as a hostess at a Chinese restaurant.
it was me and so many
Wow.
people that had moved here to America from China. And this is like outside of LA. And they were the sweetest coworkers. I loved everyone I worked with. My boss, who was also the owner, like, this is super small. He worked with us every day. And he really ingrained in me like this work ethic of never being too important or too good to do any specific job. And that has always really stuck with me. And I just think he was a great leader because, like Biz is mentioning, I didn't ever feel like he felt like he was better than me, higher than me, more important than me. He would do it just like he was telling you. He would do any of those jobs himself. He would take the trash out. He would mop the floors. He would jump in and be a server. And he wasn't perfect by any means. And I think that that's also important to recognize, is that leaders are not infallible.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a great example and somebody that has made a very long lasting impact on my life.
I love
really cool,
that.
Ashleigh. I love that too.
I miss
I
that
love your
restaurant every day of my life. We would close the kitchen and there'd be leftover rangoons and egg rolls and lo mein and rice, and we'd take it home, and it was so good.
Oh my gosh. New dream job. Excuse me while I go update my vision board. I'm not going to answer every question that I ask, but I would be so upset if I didn't talk about like one of the best leaders who really, I've studied leadership for a long time. It's fascinated me for a long time. I've been really like passionate about it. And I was so fortunate that quickly after getting into real estate, I got to work with Christy Cannon. And what an incredible example of true leadership. And like just in every single, it bleeds through in every single part of her life. And she just, it was so like mind blowing watching her work and getting the privilege of working alongside her and having the opportunity to be empowered by her was probably like one of the best things for my career and my personal life. And she just, it's just, she's wildly successful, like wildly. They sold 750 houses last year. She ran the team, but Christy had her team set up. She didn't sell houses anymore. Her whole goal was to find business opportunities and further the business so that we could all do whatever we wanted to do. And like, she was my, you know, Ashleigh, you text me with like, I have an idea. Christy was my, I have an idea. And she's like, awesome. Bring me like an outline. Let's walk through it together. And then like, there were so many nights we would stay at the office, just like massive pieces of paper, like slown across the floor with like big markers, just mapping out like dreams and thoughts and ideas and like processes and all sorts of stuff. And like, I mean, I think it's a choice whether you want somebody to influence you in a way, right? If we say leadership is influence, and that's the big difference between like, there's a title and right, like a role that people have, but then there's true leadership, to me, has nothing to do with the title. And she, I mean, she led through like, her family is her priority. She's very successful. The biggest thing is that she actively seeks for ways to empower and open up doors for the people in her world. And it is incredible how she does it. And so, you know, it's just like such an honor, but I think it's definitely like your choice who influences you or how they influence you.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it like the corporate world, right? You've got somebody you have to direct report to. And so typically they're your leader because they're going to tell you some of the parameters of how you have to behave and some of the metrics you have to hit and things like that.
Yeah.
But that almost is like corporate title leadership, which is different from being a leader because they may be able to tell you what parameters to behave within, but they're not influencing you if it's like, here's your job and you have to do it or else you're fired type, you know, like that's how I imagine the corporate world is, not having the experience. But that's how I guess I'm thinking of it, is leader versus like leadership.
Yeah. When I think about, like my corporate experience, I would say I still had leaders in that world, but rarely were they my direct reports. Because what I found, and this isn't everybody in the corporate world, but my experience was a lot of the people who were my direct reports had like it was like a power struggle, and they weren't there. Like I remember distinctly one of my bosses, we went to do my annual review, and I fought him on some of it because I said, it's false. Like, it's just false. These numbers aren't even correct. And he said, right. If they were correct, then you would be at a higher spot for a promotion than me, and I will not let you get promoted before me. And like, that's, however, somebody, it is. And there were people in that company who were above him, or just different people that I met who I definitely saw as leaders, because, you know, their approach, and it's corporate, right? So it's corporate structure and standards or whatever, but they also, it was just a totally different, like, me as a manager, my highest honor, best achievement could be for one of my people to be promoted out above me, because like, hopefully I helped you be successful, like, whatever.
Right. Yeah. I should be doing your job because you got moved up because I made you look good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so
I think that's part of the reason why I say self-led is because, like, I don't want to, there's nobody I think that deserves that title for what I've been through the past, whatever. And I mean, like, that's kind of why I'm circling back to what I was saying with Ken, because like, I wouldn't necessarily have called him like a leader. It was more of like a confidant, because nobody else has like been like, okay, we're going this direction. Like, now, like, let me lead you in this way that's going to make you successful, like, kind of thing. But it's really, it's interesting because, like, you talk about leaders, and yet, like, I think there are some similarities across the board, even with me not being a realtor, just because in the like perseverance piece of it, and the door opening, like, that's to me, I think, like, do you think there are characteristics in particular that draw leaders to your mind, like, that they all share? That, like, even the leaders in like the least expecting places, like what Ashleigh's talking about, you know, like, whenever you think about it, is there a common thread that might be unique or to each of us?
I mean, I would say it's the common thread tends to be that they really care more about other people than furthering themselves.
That's so rare.
Yeah.
So rare to find. Like, Katie, is there anybody else besides her that stands out in your mind? Or is that like why she's so impactful forever and ever? Because it was like such a gleaming example of it.
Yeah, no, I've been fortunate to have a ton of leaders in my life. Flipping the script to the opposite of that, is there somebody that you expected to be a great leader and they didn't show up for you the way that a leader should?
Ooh, boy.
Let's go.
Let's go. Should we get into it? Yes.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's pull back the curtain. I was the director of sales for a team in Keller Williams. I was brought on to help bring them up about $30 million a year in revenue that they've been stuck at for several years. And I was really excited. I really thought that the owner of this team was a true, like, visionary, like, kind-hearted, had like charity kind of at the core of everything, and seemed to just be like a good example of a leader who's like there with their people, working alongside them, and willing to accept the thoughts of the people that they hire and that they choose to trust with their business. And that was really important to me, because I really don't like when people say, like, you know, help me run this business better. And you get in and you're like, well, we should consider this. And they're like, no. Can we just open our minds to the possibility of it?
They're basically saying, be the magic key that makes my ideas that have failed work.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it's tough. And so I went through this first year, and it was really intimidating to be like, your end all be all goal is to help us hit this $100 million number that we've never been able to hit before. And the whole time you're like, well, I'm not magic. I can't just make it happen. And yet we surpassed that goal. And I was so flippin' proud of myself. I don't know if I've ever been more proud of a goal, knowing that it was not like me by myself that did it. Obviously, when you're director of sales running a team, it's a collective effort. And still, I was really, really, really proud of it. And I felt
be. Yeah.
thanks. We get to the end of the year. We celebrate as a team. Definitely as a team, hitting that number was celebrated. We go for like kind of end of year. I wouldn't call them reviews because that's not what they were, but it was kind of like a, what went well? What's the next year look like? Are you still happy? Like you're still staying, that kind of thing. And I was kind of expecting, a little bit more excitement for my role in having hit that number, and that didn't happen. And I was like, okay, that kind of sucks. And then I was like, well, looking at next year, the main thing is how are we going to continue growth? And it was like, well, we're not really doing anything different. And I was like, okay, well, that kind of sucks because I can't be too stagnant. I have to be moving on. So that kind of sucked. And then I was like, okay, well, being the director of sales, you should get a bonus for having hit your target. And that didn't happen. And I was like, wow. A lot of things didn't happen that I thought would. And I became a little disenchanted with things. And I got really frustrated. They were like, here, you can have a new job title in addition to your current one with no pay raise, no bonus for your efforts, no real impactful thank you for your efforts. And I was like, it's fine. We'll keep going. We'll try to get past it. But it's hard once you've hit that disenchanted phase. And so I kept working there and should have maybe seen that this was coming. The interest rates changed. And of course, everyone in real estate, whenever there's a change, freaks out. So interest rates change and they have us all come in for one-on-one meetings. I am in a bad place because I've got a hard money loan out for the first time ever in my life. I'm under the most financial strain I've ever been in, and I'm watching real estate sales prices drop every single day. I've got this hard money loan out. And
not to laugh at you, but like it's just like the oh shit.
Yeah, I literally could not sleep every day, stressed out. And so I go into this one-on-one, and for the first time in my life, in front of a boss, I cry. And I could not stop it. And I'm just like, I'm like, I'm going to get through it. I'm going to work on getting more listings and sales and it'll be fine. And I've got like whatever deals closing. Like I know it'll be okay, but I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
But it's fine. And so I leave that one-on-one. They don't say anything to me. About 5 days later, they pull all of the staff into an all hands meeting and tell us we're cutting your salaries in half. And I was like, I cannot,
in
half. And they're like, we're not telling the real estate agents that this is happening because we don't want them to freak out. But you guys should reduce your work hours to help offset, work about half the time to offset that pay. And I was like, okay, how are you going to tell the agents when I'm not answering the phone at all hours?
Right. Yeah.
Like, we need to have some boundaries here, or else I'm just going to end up working for free. Like this is going to be less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
And everybody else in the meeting is sitting there, and I felt like everybody was kind of in shock, but also they were like starting to be like, I'm willing to do whatever for the team. And I'm like, am I the only person sitting here thinking this is fucked up?
Yeah.
Because I can't speak up and say like, I don't agree with the way this is being handled or anything because I'm in this group setting. And then not only is it that's how they told us, 5 minutes after that meeting concludes is the team meeting with all the real estate agents. So I've just been told you're getting paid half despite the fact that you outperformed your goals for last year that we set for you. And now you have to be all cheery and happy in this team meeting and hoorah, and the market's going to be fine and interest rates will be fine. And crush. Left for the day, and I've never truly been in as much like of a weird place as I was that day. And I was like, I'm resourceful. I'm not quitting on this. I'm going to pick up some freelancing stuff on the side so that I can get through finishing out this flip without like losing my ass. And so I do that, and I'm like, well, just to be transparent with my boss, I feel like I should tell him that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
It's not a competitor or anything like that, but I want to be an honest person, and I felt like that was something I should share. I shared it with him. He told me it seemed like I was only in the job for the money, and I was fired by text message.
I can't there's so much to unpack here.
Just wild ride.
I remember when all of that was going down, and I kind of appreciate the like way you just phrased all of that. Like, let me just say, like, that makes like it makes sense in the sense of like all of that, because it was a
Yeah.
lot all
It
at
was a
once. It
lot.
happened very quickly. And like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it
that
happened very, very quickly. And they fired me on Sunday because Monday was the start of a new pay period. And so they couldn't have me come in because they would have owed, I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah, I remember getting a text message because he and I were almost getting into a fight on text when he was like, it seems like you're only here for the money. And I was like, at one point he texted me and I was like, this is just turning into a fight. It was literally Saturday. And I was like, I can't respond productively. I'll go in Monday. And I had the feeling, I was like, I'll go in Monday and he'll fire me. But at least Monday I can go in and have a respectful conversation.
Yeah.
Sunday, I just see his name pop up as like he's texted me. And I was like, I literally handed the phone to my husband, unlocked it without looking. And I said, I need you to read this before I do and tell me how mad I'm about to be. But he
Oh my
knew before
God.
I did.
And what did Shane say?
And he just looked at me and said, you're going to be pretty mad. But it was crazy because this whole time I'm like, I'm going to persevere because I believe in this person's mission. I believe that they treat people equitably and like that we can have, even if we aren't going to be continuing to work together, we can have these respectful conversations. And I'm like, when you're in the thick of stuff, you don't always get it. But I look back and I'm like, dude, pulling everybody into a team meeting to tell them in a group that
Yeah.
it's like all the companies that send emails for their layoffs.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is such a cheap out way. I get it that conversation sucks and you don't want to have it however many times, but you owe it to the people that work for you.
There's no way to value a person less than to like take their livelihood away from them and not even give them a conversation.
Yeah.
First of all, still sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's draw the parallel here, right? Because we're talking about leadership through title versus leadership through actions, right? So you had somebody who had you working for them, made some mistakes, didn't own up to them, pulled you into a group setting, cut your pay in half, no discussion, no questions about if you still wanted to stay on, or helping you plan for what next steps or additional income streams you could have, anything like that. And then also expected and required your discretion about their mess up.
Yeah.
And made you turn like zero consideration about how that would impact you, how you would react, and then your need to go into a meeting. And then to follow that up, had very emotional responses and judgmental responses to you trying to be honest. Whereas you, who you had a title, but technically he was your superior, right? You took it, went along with the plan, although it wasn't, you weren't enthused, and you put the good of the team ahead of you so that you didn't stir up a bunch of shit. You went in, you smiled through that meeting, whatever, and then left and had your feelings at home. And then you started problem solving. You said, I'm resourceful. I'll figure this out. You sought solutions. You brought solutions. You approached the conversations solution-based with integrity and honesty. And you continued to do that throughout that process. This is exactly what I'm talking about, where like somebody with a title who thinks that they're a leader because they have the title and they've been called a leader versus somebody who actually lives their life as leadership. Like, Ashleigh, your actions are such a beautiful show of leadership and how you walked through that and how you came out of it. And then I'll also say, because, we have been fortunate enough to be friends with you before and during and after that. Like, that was a very difficult time in your life, but then the steps that you took after that to allow yourself to really reflect, because something you thought was a great opportunity was kind of taken from you, And then you got to pause and be like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, where do I want to go from here? Instead of building somebody else's dream and hopping on board with that, like, what do I want to do? And it's been a really cool process, but every step of the way, you have been such a leader. Even, and this isn't, I don't want people to think like, oh, I'm not a leader because I get mad about things. We all have emotions and responses, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And
Ashleigh, in the like, there's something you said in there too, at one point, almost in like defense of like, you know, people were all like for the betterment of the team, or like you said you yourself like believed in this mission and this bigger piece of it. Right. So like at some point in the beginning of your relationship, do you think he was like a chosen leader?
I guess I did in a way because, right. So the way in the real estate world this works is this job opportunity comes up and the opportunity cost is different than in the corporate world. You know, changing companies in the corporate world, I think carries a lot more risk than in real estate. When you stay, I was already at Keller Williams, so I was staying at the same company. I'm just taking on a different role in addition to my other activities that's already producing income. So it's one of those things where you go, do I believe that this is going to get me closer to my goals? Do I believe this is going to be fulfilling? Do I believe this is a person that I want to follow and listen to? And so, yeah, I think, you know, you go on all these, for people that don't know, the Keller Williams interview process is crazy long. It's usually like 3 months and 10 steps, and it's intense. So through all that time,
very insightful.
It is very insightful,
but it's very long.
Yeah. So, I mean, you get to know yourself even a little bit more, but you also definitely take a lot of time to get to know the people interviewing you. The director of operations was somebody that I really, really respected. So I chose for those people to be leaders and have that role in my life. And while I had kind of felt the rug being pulled out in little places throughout, like the, you know, not feeling properly credited for my role in things, you know, you feel little slips where, but again, it goes back to, well, people aren't perfect and leaders are never perfect. And, you know, if I'd run a team and had a hard time hitting a goal for 3 years in a row and suddenly hit it, I don't know that I don't know exactly how great I'd be at celebrating the other people.
Yeah.
So, you know, you try to give people grace. And then when you have that final like snap moment of like, have I been an idiot for the past almost 2 years?
Yeah.
Like, did
it's
I
hard,
really
right?
have wool pulled over my eyes, or were they a good leader and this was just a poor decision? It's hard.
Yeah. How long do you think you like paid attention to them before you made that decision to go on board? I'm just asking because like,
Yeah.
I feel like it takes me like a year before I can make a decision to move over somewhere and do stuff. And like, you're like a very quick thinker and decider.
Yeah.
And like to Katie's point that she was complimenting your leadership and how you handled that situation, like you do rebound and like reassess and go like so much better than I do. And it's just like the differences in us, I think, in the way that we do things. And it's not like a good or bad, right? It's just a different way of identifying leaders. And then also in that point, like, you know, what did you learn from it and how to identify a leader better and like the next move to take with you? Like, what did you actually take with that? Right. Like, cause I'm just curious with the story with where you're going with it. With that. And sorry, Katie, if I'm asking questions, I just want to dig deeper in it because I'm really understanding what you're like. I'm comparing myself to what you're doing as I'm listening to you. And it's, you know, and it's interesting because like a lot of times, like when I go and compare myself, I want to think of like, this is how I can be better at something. And like, the more that we do this, the more I realize like there's just strengths in each of us individually. And the people that are, you know, are listening through it. So it's
I did not watch them for very long. They were not on my radar. Like I said, they were not a very large, like well-known team at the time. They just weren't putting up the big numbers that most of the people are putting up. And so I didn't know them. I had one run-in with the owner of the team at like a top agent magazine thing. And I went to try to introduce myself to him, and he didn't notice me and turned away. And I was like, well, he's kind of a dick. And so that was literally the only impression I had of him until I saw that the team, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I remember that guy kind of being a dick. And so I went to the interview, like, to be open-minded, and he was very different than what my first impression had been. So no, I didn't watch him for very long. And I think, you look at, it took a year and a half for me to really feel like, wow, this person is not a leader. Mm-hmm. And so there's some lessons that you just won't, you just can't, it's like Brené Brown always says, like, you're always preparing for the worst case scenario. And it's like, what's that really going to do to help you in the moment? If the worst case scenario happens, well, nothing, if I'd watched them for an entire year, would I have protected myself from that happening? No.
Yeah, thank you for fleshing that all the way out. Because again, like you really walk that in like everything, and it serves you well. It really does. And it's such a small thing, but it really impacts all of it, like your peace. Like and that's a big lesson that I don't think a lot of people, myself included, like are at that point where I can execute it as rapidly as you can. Like, it's great.
No, I appreciate it.
I want to drive a couple points home throughout this. So like right now, as we're in such a moment of change, I think that there's a lot of people who look to quote unquote leadership and the people with the titles to dictate their next actions and how they approach change and stuff. And the point, I've been so like emphatic the past few weeks, and I really wanted to chew through this with y'all because it's been such a moment of like everything else changes and people's lives are in chaos, and like how can we be the peace bringers and where can we provide solutions, because that's where leaders show up and leaders win, right? And so the challenge is like, who can you lead in your life and how can you lead in this moment? And it doesn't have to be big, and I'm not saying you have to go for a promotion, but maybe it's like helping somebody with something or something in your home life or whatever it is. But think about the things that define a leader and how you define a leader and somebody that you want to give respect to. And then like, how can you show up as that person? And I think we could probably spend an entire hour picking that apart and like all of the things we could do. But I have a couple quotes that I wanted to read to y'all to have y'all pick through. All of them are from our friend John Maxwell. Because his books, he's our friend, his books and his thoughts on leadership are just absolutely amazing. And I think he's so spot on with his thoughts on it. He's very into like leadership isn't a position and all of that. So, so this one is: leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. And so that's one that I think about often, of like, even if you're in a room where you hold no quote unquote authority, how can you empower? And sometimes that is like helping others respect the person who does have authority, but like, how can you empower others?
I like that one.
I like that one a lot. This one, Ashleigh, I wasn't going to include on here, but I thought of it instantly as you were telling your story, is a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way.
Ooh.
And then people may hear your words, but they feel your attitude.
Yeah. Oh, Ashleigh should probably get that one tattooed on her.
Yeah.
That one's a call out to me. I have like, my face has an outside voice.
I always say that's why I got Botox, because I was like, Ashleigh's face is reflecting her thoughts. Oh, we need that to not happen.
And then I liked this a lot too, just as a reminder of like who we surround ourselves with. Teamwork makes the dream work, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team.
Wow.
Ooh.
I hadn't heard the PS to that before.
Right?
Oof. Man, I think Biz, that probably speaks a lot to both of us, because we're big dream visionary type people. And we need to have executors and integrators and people to help us.
Yeah, with all of these, I I think about leading with it and having to stuff a lot of my feelings and like how I choose to show up in front of people.
That is
And
hard.
yeah, and then it like honestly just makes me feel very grateful and like separates to me like how important it is to have friendship and people that you can talk to that you aren't a leader for about those things and how
Yes.
important it is to keep that stuff separate. So like as we're reading through these quotes, I'm like like challenging myself like through that kind of thing. But you know, and I just that's again like why I'm so grateful for you guys, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point because it's hard to lead through uncertain times, through the chaos, like Katie is mentioning. I mean, AI is disrupting how many industries and jobs right now.
Yeah.
And it can
Yeah.
be really easy to like, you're like, how am I supposed to make you feel better? I'm freaked out too. And it's like,
Right.
that's why you need to have friends, and definitely not just like your colleague that you think is your friend, because not everything stays private that should. You need to have friends that you can come and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's the end of the world. How do I do this? And then, read your little affirmation or whatever it is, so that you can go back out to be the leader that is empowering other people, not bringing them down.
Well, and I think also like Ashleigh, we talked about how you get a lot of encouragement through solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
And so probably one of the ways I would guess that you process like freakouts or chaos or fear, maybe, because leadership isn't the absence of fear, right? It's just navigating people through it. But probably one of the ways that you process it is having like your trusted exhale circle where you can just say like, what? And somebody will join you and being like, yeah, no, I'm concerned too. And like, maybe we'll get through it together or whatever, but just that solidarity of like, okay, I'm not the only one freaked out. I don't suck. I'm not like a bad leader because I'm scared. Reality is that I am, or whatever the case is. And just allowing yourself to have people who will kind of meet you in that place so that you can go help others work through theirs.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what my Belize trip was, right? And so it just that too. It just all of the above, like all that stuff is really like forefront of my mind. Just how important it is to have all areas of your life being fulfilled, and like the place and the time and place. And it's just the lesson I'm learning currently.
Cool. Well, if anybody wants more thoughts on leadership, pop over to my page because I'll probably be posting more of my unhinged thoughts about it, or give me a call because I've been blowing people up the past couple weeks about all of my thoughts and where I think people could plug in. And this is, I would challenge people to really think about like processing your fear or processing your frustration, and truly looking around to like, when the chips fall, somebody emerges through them, right? So like, how can you be that person? What solutions can you offer? Where can you offer solutions? Who can you help? Because truly, if you just set out to help people.
Yeah. And if you're somebody that's struggling right now with a bad leader, and especially if you're like, the job market right now, you can't make that jump.
Yeah.
I would say the more clarity you can give to them on how they can empower you, the better. And that is a very easy approach of like, hey, I need you to lead me better. I need you to manage me better. Like that is not always well received, but hey, I would feel really empowered if you let me take the all hands meeting off of your plate, or if you let me put together the agenda, or whatever it is, like whatever small thing that would help you in your career and help you feel like less micromanaged or something, and still as their way to lead you well.
Yeah. And I mean, that may help them too.
Yep.
All right, friends. Well, thanks for joining us. Please tune in for our next episode. It is episode 21.
She's legal now. Spring break.
Are we all wearing bikinis?
No.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, go rate us, like us, subscribe to us, share us with your friends, and we will see you back here next week.
Oh, my cat's gonna knock over my computer.